Hey y'all, a few quick announcements before we begin. First, last Friday, I mentioned I will be doing a reading and signing at Harvard this coming Friday, March 25th. I was not aware that this is not an event open to the general public, so sorry about that, but they said I could have a few non-Harvard people there. If you're located in Boston and interested in attending, email hello@unchainedpodcast.com, subject line Harvard reading, and we will give the few spots out available to the general public first come, first serve. The event, again, is Friday, March 25th from 4 to 5 p.m. on the Harvard campus at HBS Aldrich 011. I'll be interviewed about my book by NF Castle's Michelle Choi, and we'll also do a signing. I also mentioned that I will be moderating a panel the next day, but again, that is only for Harvard students. Here are the other book events I have coming up. So if you want to see me or get your book signed, please mark your calendars for these dates. I will put all the details in the show notes, and very soon, we will be putting a section for tours on my website, laurashin.com. Okay, here's the rest of the upcoming events. On Tuesday, April 5th, from 6 to 8 p.m., I will be doing a reading and signing hosted by the City of Miami Beach and Future Perfect Ventures at Sky Yard. Jalak Jobanputra, CEO of Future Perfect Ventures, will be interviewing me. You need to RSVP by April 1st. Information in the show notes. On Saturday, April 9th at 11 a.m., I will be on a panel at the Annapolis Book Festival. On Tuesday, April 12th, at a time TBD, I will be at StartupGrind's global event in Redwood City, which is focused this year on Web3. And finally, I will be in conversation with author Jimmy Soni at the PBS Seattle Crosscut Festival, which takes place from May 4th to May 7th. And I will also be at the Oslo Freedom Forum, which takes place from May 23rd to 25th. Details on these events are TBD. And now, on to the show. Hi everyone, welcome to Unchained, your no-hype resource for all things crypto. I'm your host, Laura Shin, author of The Cryptopians. I started covering crypto 6 years ago, and as a senior editor at Forbes, was the first mainstream media reporter to cover cryptocurrency full-time. This is the March 22nd, 2022 episode of Unchained. Buy, earn, and spend crypto on the Crypto.com app. New users can enjoy 0 credit card fees on crypto purchases in the first 30 days. Download the Crypto.com app and get $25 with the code LAURA, link in the description. This episode of Unchained is brought to you by Beefy Finance, the multi-chain yield optimizer. Beefy is the easiest way to earn more from your crypto. Deposit funds into Beefy's secure vaults to auto-compound yield across 12 blockchains. Got crypto? Choose Beefy. Welcome to a new world of crypto-friendly banking with Cross River Bank. Request your fiat on-off ramp solution now at crossriver.com/crypto. Today's topic is crypto efforts to support Ukraine. Here to discuss are George Kikbadze, Vice Chair of Bitfury Group, and Illia Polasukin, co-founder of Near Protocol. Welcome, George and Illia.
Hi, Laura.
Thank you.
Great to be back.
Let's just start with your background in crypto so people understand what your involvement was in crypto before we get to the main topic.
Sure, yeah. Thanks for inviting me here. Kind of my journey in crypto started in mid-2018, where we were actually trying to build a crowdsourcing platform using blockchain as a payment service, and have kind of struggled to use any of the existing at the moment platforms. Have being systems engineers, being kind of ourselves geeks who like to dig in, we started looking around trying to understand why platforms like Ethereum are not able to handle kind of global payment use case, and realizing kind of a set of limitations like usability, like scalability. And trying to explore, can we contribute to existing solutions, and then deciding to start Near Protocol, kind of trying to solve the scalability, security, and simplicity of usage of blockchain.
Great. And George?
Yeah, I mean, actually, my Bitcoin story started in Ukraine in 2013. I was working with one of the largest agro holdings, and the idea was to take the agro holding public with the Western capital markets and to secure the funding for it. And through close friends of mine, I met Val Vavilov, who is the founder of Bitfury, and the idea was to scale the business and make it global. And it's a funny story because I met Val when Bitcoin was at $20, at $50, at $100, and finally at this situation where it got to at 400 or 500. I speaking to a few of my friends in Silicon Valley and getting feedback that this technology was real and the innovation was serious. I decided to leave the agriculture, the field in Ukraine, and join Bitfury. So I've been in the crypto community since 2013, and I consider myself a dinosaur and have seen a lot happening. And it's been one hell of a ride, as you know, Laura.
And so here we're going to be discussing the crypto community efforts in Ukraine. And both of you have personal connections there. Obviously, George, you even just mentioned that was where you were when you discovered Bitcoin. But Ilya, why don't we start with you? What is your connection to Ukraine?
Well, I was born there, and I lived there until I was 21. So I left to US in 2012, and so studied. My family lived and continued living there even after I left. All my friends, classmates, friends of friends, living. Many of them are still there, and so yeah, have kind of pretty deep background from before, and then over past year as Near kind of have been after launch have been scaling out, we actually started building hubs and communities around the world. And I've actually spent significant amount of my time in Kiev and Kharkiv, kind of growing the developer community because there's a lot of Web3 entrepreneurs and developers there. So engaging with them, we were actually planning to have a blockchain UA in end of March, kind of to galvanize the community there. So yeah, it's been unfortunate and very devastating because a lot of some of my people I know are right now at territorial defense right now in in various cities. Even some of the colleagues in the ecosystem are there as well, and so and then obviously just a lot of kind of women and like parents who have been fleeing from the scene there.
Yeah, I just need to express my, how sorry I am about everything that, you and your family and all your friends have been going through. And George, why don't you also describe your connection there?
Well, Ukraine is like my second homeland. When Russia struck Georgia in 2008, I was at a time working in Moscow, and basically overnight I had to pick everything up and leave. And I was working for a large U.S.-based hedge fund at the time, where I was sort of head of the region. And when the August war happened, I basically had 24 hours to pick everything up and move my family to Kiev. I spent 6 years in Kiev. Have obviously a lot of friends, family members. This is the country where my first son was born. My firstborn was there. It's a country where I really got the appreciation of the freedom and liberty, love of the people of Ukraine. And this is the country where I experienced the first Maidan, where people of Ukraine were fed up by the corruption of Yanukovych, and we all marched, in the streets in 2013 in the Maidan. And actually, I was one of the 33 members of the infamous Tsaryov list, where I was deported from Ukraine. I was not let into the country, and was sort of barred from entering the country for my support and affection towards the cause. So there is a lot of emotion. There is a lot of contact, spiritual, from the standpoint of friends. We have quite a bit of presence in Ukraine as well, from the standpoint of people and software developers working there. So all in all, there was just a lot of ties, and seeing this atrocity being committed in my second homeland, my homeland, I felt compelled to act as soon as practical in order to do whatever we could to help our friends and people of Ukraine.
So let's talk a little bit more about that. A number of people have talked about how there has been a vibrant crypto or Web3 community in Ukraine. So describe what that community was like there, which companies were there or which developers, what that scene was like. Was it more entrepreneurs or investors or traders, or just kind of paint a picture of what crypto community was like in Ukraine before this war?
I can maybe cover some of this because I was there in January before leaving for East Denver, and so overall, I would say like the tech community in Ukraine have been growing insanely fast over past 10, 15 years. And I would say big part is because this is a very much a career path that has clear kind of financial outcomes, which obviously people prefer, and also is you're able to work with your mind and kind of contribute to the global economy. And so, because of that, there's kind of a lot of developers who are working actually for companies around the world in various ways. Some of them are directly, some of them through outstaffing, some of them through outsourcing. But all of that, like a lot of projects that people are using around the world, are developed in Ukraine. Like this is Booking.com, Hotels.com. This is projects from crypto. I would say probably all of them have somewhere a group of developers working on them in Ukraine, including obviously near, given kind of our roots from like me coming from Ukraine. And on top of it, I would say because of that kind of the product, kind of Web2 product culture did not develop in Ukraine. There was no time, there was no internal market. It's kind of hard to break it was hard to break in actually into kind of Silicon Valley if you're a Ukrainian founder of a Ukrainian company. So, like you need to actually move to US, spend some time there, and then you can raise funds. But that is not true about Web3, and especially became less true after COVID, where investors became way more kind of, I would say, willing to invest in companies just after a Zoom call with founders. And so I think between those two changes, kind of a lot of new enterprises in Web3 specifically started in Ukraine because there was already a lot of technical talent or able to do this. But now it could convert into funding rounds, which then are able to build bigger teams, build marketing, all those kind of other things that you need to build a proper company. And so I would say there was kind of on a rise, like switch from maybe a little bit more retail community, which to be clear, Ukraine is number 4 crypto market globally because that the crypto is the way to invest. Pretty much there's only 2 things to invest in: real estate and crypto before the war. And because of such a big technical, I would say, crowd, right? Like a lot of people know how to do, at least like, can easily figure out how to use crypto exchanges and then go beyond that, right? And like have technical capability to read white papers and do all the stuff. So a lot of people, like I was literally on a train from Kiev to Kharkiv. Somebody was talking about all the coins they invested and like different compared them, right? Just randomly on the side. So I would say like I saw also the shift where like there was a lot of retail, especially kind of in between IT professionals and also beyond that, but then that started to switch and convert into actual founders because it kind of gave them this freedom and ability. And what we see now is actually these founders being really engaged in kind of as a community to help people around the whole country as well, because they're so connected and coming from different directions as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Ukraine has been one of the top destinations for talent. And especially early on, the government was very sort of savvy in terms of experimenting with few blockchain applications and has been actually at the forefront of regulatory aspects of that. In terms of vibrancy of an entrepreneurship culture, I mean, you have at current moment just numerous groups that I see various tasks, whether it is setting up the Starlink systems, or going in and setting up the IT army of Ukraine that's going out and helping out with combating the cyber space, or documenting the crimes, the war crimes that are being committed. So there are dozens of these groups extremely active with savvy founders that have roots not only in Ukraine but all around the world, that are collaborating on various projects and allocating resources in order to protect their motherland, and ensure that this tyranny is thwarted, and the peace returns, and Ukraine is rebuilt to much better than it was before. And I'm absolutely confident that given the spirit of the people, the world has learned what it is to fight like Ukrainian, and the Western Hemisphere that has been very shallow on understanding what liberty and freedom is. Ukraine has exported it and exported what it means to fight for freedom, to fight for statehood, and fight for liberty. And I think that has lacked to some degree. These were the qualities that have been forgotten all around the world, because frankly speaking, in the last sort of 10, 15 years, we had this advent of authoritarianisms and tyrannies around the world. And, little Ukraine, it was a David that has roared and has showed the world what it is to love the country, to love the freedom, and to love the liberty. And I think this will go down in the history books as the shining example, and frankly speaking, as a turning example of a civilization to really focus on really what matters and on the big stones. And freedom and liberty is one of those key parameters.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think this will go down in the history books because of how quickly crypto got involved in this war. I mean, it was really mind blowing, frankly, for, as I've said, I started covering this space almost 7 years ago. And definitely, at that time, just with the way the technology had developed, there was very little adoption. And so to see it become used both kind of on the ground as well as at the highest levels of government very, very quickly, or at least discussed, I mean, it's really been remarkable. Let's talk about kind of that on the ground picture first. As far as I understand, and obviously I'm sure you're only aware of the picture in Ukraine, but I even saw that in Russia, people are turning, like everyday people are turning to crypto to transact. So in Ukraine, why don't you kind of explain what that has looked like, why it is that people have been turning to crypto, for what purpose, why is it that they're choosing crypto over other forms of money? And how has the demand for crypto in Ukraine kind of changed people's ability to transact, or how they're transacting in crypto?
Well, I think it started really at the point where when we learned about this, right? I think kind of all of us tried to find a way to help, and the simplest way was to donate. And so the first thing I actually did was donating to Come Back Alive via Bitcoin, which is what George will talk about probably. But then kind of a group of entrepreneurs, crypto entrepreneurs from Ukraine, kind of came together to form a kind of more, I would say, like focused on humanitarian needs of the people who will be kind of affected by this. And the benefit there is that if you want to start a new nonprofit, new NGO, that's a very complicated process. If you want to open a bank account, if you want to start accepting donations, then donations themselves, wire transfers, like to new NGO, there's lots of compliance that we'll need to go through. And given we're kind of at a very fast moving situation, right, that's just not the right way. And so crypto became kind of this really easy way to create an organization that is like has a specific mandate and is able to distribute those funds as well. And so, setting up multi-sig, setting up DAOs, even as a kind of structure, was just super easy and was done like, within minutes. And then, we can start posting it and start spreading it around, right? So the interesting part is that the fund we started called Unchained Fund, very much within the name of the podcast. And so, kind of the goal of which was, like Ukraine has this very unfortunate history of being kind of hit by everyone who is fighting over and over again. And Ukraine, people want to stand up and have their own freedom, their own history, not like history of other countries around them. And so, really trying to kind of break this chain of events, and at the same time, use the blockchain, use the crypto as a driver, as an engine for doing that. And so as we launch it, and there's like a number of people like Rev Miller and Oleg Kurchenko, Alexei Mirsky, Alexei Bovak, who have been kind of driving this. It allowed to really move like and start distributing money to people, to volunteers on the streets of Kiev and Kharkiv, for example, like within the same day, right? And so like I think within the first day it was already over $1 million that like were collected, and then hundreds of thousands of dollars started to be kind of distributed. At this moment, already over 6.8 million was like almost $3 million being allocated already. So really it's kind of the speed, the agility, and also the trust, right? Because we can actually build a multi-sig, we can build a DAO structure that is transparent, that is like accountable, that we can actually see where the transactions are going, and we can assign like what are specific needs that be fulfilled. Now, obviously, not everything is being accepted in crypto, and it still needs to be converted here and there to fiat, and which, by the way, big thanks is to some of the kind of crypto exchanges in Ukraine that are still running and operating Grivna pairs and are able to cash this out. And at the same time, more and more people are willing to accept crypto as well, because it creates like they are able in Ukraine, they're able to kind of have this asset themselves as well, which may be decorrelated of the current exchange rates.
Something that interests me about what you said is, so I obviously totally get how fundraising would be a lot faster and easier. But even, when you were saying that the people who are kind of like buying supplies and stuff, that the suppliers are starting to accept it, what's in it for them? Like, why would they be compelled to do this as well? What is it that, kind of the normal payment system is breaking down, or what's happening that would even cause them to start transacting in crypto?
So I would say it's actually was like it was moving down. So first, volunteers who would be going out into a store, they were started accepting crypto.
And by that, do you mean like Bitcoin and Ether, or just to define what you mean?
Anything near like anything that's liquid and has a pair with Grivna, for example, because they could actually convert it to Grivna to their card, and it actually is pretty much instant. And so they can actually get it to their cards from any crypto through like exchanges like Kuna and Whitebit to their card and pay for it in a store.
These are like prepaid cards, like debit cards?
Yeah, like a debit card. Yeah, credit cards are not used as much. But I think like that was kind of first step, and so the reasoning to do that actually are limits. So there are limits on exchanges, limits on central bank, like how much currency you can exchange and stuff like this. So this way, kind of by pretty much crowdsourcing the exchanging on itself was already powerful. But then beyond that, the suppliers started accepting it as well, because if they wanted to deal with dollars don't actually are in circulation in Ukraine, right? And so if they want to de-risk their exchange rate, they can actually accept stable coins, for example, for themselves.
Okay, yeah, because I was hearing that Tether is now more valuable than US dollars, that there's a premium of like 4 to 5%, and that even then people won't want to sell you their Tether because they view it as more valuable than US dollars. Is that something that you've also heard, or what's your sense of why that might be?
Yeah, that happens every time there's a crunch on demand on going into crypto. That's just like that happens every like few months or every 6 months, even before, when there's like a something in the market, the Tether price would go up like locally on a spot, because it's hard to get it. Like if you are in Ukraine, it's actually hard to get Tether from Bitfinex, right? Because like the flow of money is complicated. But I would say like beyond that is people are want to convert currencies back and forth, right? Depending on what is their next steps going to be. And so, yeah, kind of stable coins have been, growing in adoption for sure in Ukraine, because they are allowing to kind of move some of the assets they had in Green, for example, to a stable coin that's not, directly in paper, which is also hard to get by.
And George, did you want to add any of this about kind of how everyday people are transacting in crypto?
Yeah, I mean, I think to step back a little bit, the whole purpose of kind of realizing, okay, this is, this is quite serious, and people of Ukraine will need help, and they will need a lot of help fast. You step back, and obviously, I'm quite familiar with the key crypto community players. But you got to step back that crypto itself and the people behind crypto, to a large extent, are the people that have gotten into it to make a world a better place. They have gotten in to improve things, to alter the status quo. And when we saw the pictures of sort of Russian planes attacking innocent civilians, that channeled energy. And in our community, that energy and that support on the crypto community, crypto was just a means of channeling that energy of the support to the people in Ukraine. And as soon as the invasion started, which ironically started at 4 in the morning, same time when the Hitler, invaded Soviet Union in 1941, 4 a.m. Some twisted, Kremlin sort of a plot. In the morning when I woke up and we saw the news, first of all, I woke up, I looked at the Bitcoin price, it was down, and I knew, oh shit, something really must have happened. That was, and actually, interestingly, throughout this sort of a war, every time I've been waking up and haven't been getting much sleep, but I'm seeing prices, and it's amazing how sort of the price has reacted when situation got worse versus towards a peace settlement. It really is profound how momentarily the sort of Bitcoin price has been reacting to that, obviously, the crypto market. So I contacted a few of my friends whom I trust on the ground, and I said, listen, we're here to help. How can we help? And through few of the trusted parties that come back alive is the organization. And I started going out and how can we make a donations? And I realized that their USD account that was with Parthenon or Pantheon, the Patreon, it was blocked because Patreon considered them to be buying military equipment. And it was a complete BS because the funds they allocated from Come Back Alive were focused on primarily on getting defensive gear such as bulletproof vests, helmets, medications, various protective gear to protect the cities. And I realized it would not even be worth right now to get the best legal counsel and going and sorting that out. And I realized, why don't we get the BTC address, rev it up, and start promoting? And that's what we started doing. And in a very short period of time, a lot of that energy was channeled into the Bitcoin wallet. And the volunteers on the ground, used that to acquire those helmets. And frankly speaking, a lot of the sellers of this equipment, they're completely fine getting paid in the crypto. These are the entities located in Finland, in Sweden, in Germany, in the United States, and there was no issue whatsoever. And I'll tell you more, we actually ran few of the extraction operations by the ex-Green Berets on the ground, and they were completely fine to be paid in Bitcoin to go and get the job done and, to get the innocent, civilians from Chernihiv, from Sumy, from Kharkiv and other places. So in an environment where there is instability and upheaval in a financial system, what I realized that people view having an option outside of existing system is extremely valuable. And you just don't know. You may have grievances, but God forbid the national bank gets bombed, or as you've seen, they're bombing maternity wards. What precludes them bombing central bank and major bank? And all of a sudden, you're stuck. Your system is frozen. Crypto has provided this alternative, which is extremely valuable in turbulent times like this. So we had great success, and we raised close to $16 million, which big chunk has been allocated. And, we're very proud that, many of the crypto community folks that have come in and made allocations have made an impact. And that's where we met with Illia, through common friends, through discussions. And one of the first things was Illia being sort of operational. Like, what are the logistics? How can we improve it? What is the procurement system? Because we're sort of getting the funds, but actually, how do you make sure that those funds get allocated to the right equipment, that get to the right people on the ground, that are used in the right operational environment? So we had few collaborations, and I'm glad that in this time of need, many people stepped up from the crypto community through our efforts or outside our efforts. Like CZ from Binance has donated $10 million. Gavin from Polka has donated 5. Solana has had a big effort outside of crypto. Ashton Kutcher and Mila is from Chernivtsi, actually, from West Ukraine, and they started a GoFund campaign. And they're nearing $30 million donation. So all in all, and Mikhailo Fyodorov and the team at Ministry, they're nearing all in all with all the Ukraine close to 70. So all in all, with these efforts, we are kind of approaching 150 million-ish, which properly allocated for the right sort of a targeted approaches, I think is making tremendous impact. And frankly speaking, this is first time during a war of such scale has been organized so rapidly and dispersed so efficiently in time horizon that we have seen.
Yeah, it's honestly really remarkable to be watching it from the outside. I mean, it's obviously historic. One point I wanted to clarify. So for when you talked about posting the Bitcoin address, where was that? Which, because obviously there were multiple different fundraising efforts. So for the one that you helped organize, which one was that?
It was purely Come Back Alive Foundation and their Bitcoin World. Yeah. So we focused on that. And actually, they have had such huge inflow of not only crypto, but also donations in kind and also fiat donations that has sorted out that, they are well funded right now. And the next effort that we will be announcing in a couple of weeks is actually an effort to help the children of Ukraine, children that have lost their parents during bombing or during the war. We'll be raising a foundation to help the children of heroes. It's a Children of Hero Foundation, and we'll be announcing in the next couple of weeks' time. So stay tuned for that.
All right. So in a moment, we'll talk more about how these funds will be deployed. But first, a quick word from the sponsors who make this show possible. Finance is changing. Strategies are changing. Holding is changing. Beefy Finance, the multi-chain yield optimizer, allows you to maximize passive income while you sleep. Simply deposit your crypto into Beefy's secure, industry-leading auto-compounding vaults to put your funds to work. Each one of Beefy's 740 vaults automatically reinvests the interest gained on your crypto deposits, earning you more while saving you time and fees. Beefy's strategies create bank-busting APYs with 0% deposit fees at the click of a button. Join $1.4 billion of investments and understand why so many users trust Beefy with their financial independence. Visit beefy.finance and take control of your financial future. Join over 10 million people using Crypto.com, the easiest place to buy, earn, and spend over 150 cryptocurrencies. New users enjoy 0 credit card fees on crypto purchases in their first 30 days. With Crypto.com Earn, you can get industry-leading interest rates of up to 8.5% on over 40 coins, including Bitcoin, and earn up to 14% on stablecoins. With the Crypto.com Visa card, you can spend your crypto anywhere. Enjoy up to 8% cash back instantly, plus 100% rebates for your Netflix, Spotify, and Amazon Prime subscriptions, and 0 annual fees. Download the Crypto.com app and get $25 with the code LAURA. Link in the description. Building the next big thing in crypto? Cross River has your back. Whether you are a crypto exchange, NFT marketplace, or wallet, Cross River's integrated API-based platform provides the payments solutions you need to grow. Cross River is powering the future of financial services. A CryptoFin Industry Award winner and an early partner for companies like Coinbase, Cross River's tech stack supports crypto partners and enables real-time money movement for consumers. Welcome to a new world of crypto-friendly banking. Request your fiat on-off-ramp solution now at crossriver.com/crypto. Back to my conversation with George and Illia. So we kind of discussed a little bit about how you're using the funds. I have seen some chatter where people have said, do people realize what this money is going toward? You talked about how Patreon blocked those efforts because, they, I guess, have a policy against funding the purchase of military equipment. But I did want to ask, so I've heard, from some people that some of the funds are being used to purchase military equipment, and then from others that it's being used to purchase other things such as like bulletproof vests or night vision goggles or tourniquets. So can you just talk a little bit about how it is that these funds are being used and, how those decisions are being made?
So for us, kind of the original goal was, to focus specifically on humanitarian needs. So what are the all kind of, food, shelter, evacuation kind of funds needed? And then kind of over time, there definitely appeared a need that, literally our friends who are, or like for some people, their family who actually signed up for territorial defense were pretty much sitting there without defensive gear, right? Did not have a bulletproof vest. They did not have kind of even basic cask type of equipment because it was not delivered. And so this is where kind of Unchained Fund, a lot of it was focused on kind of this food, medicine, things that needed for civilians to survive, get out of the place they are, settle them, for example, in west of Ukraine. And then this is where I actually connected with George and his Come Back Alive because there was a huge need in like how do we get defensive equipment to the our friends pretty much who are in this kind of front lines, right? Again, my friends are in Kharkiv, right? They are actually in active combat like every day. And so at the same time, there are other friends who are in Europe who are actually procuring can like get a lot of this equipment. So that's where kind of Come Back Alive, I think, became very important piece, at least for me. And I know George kind of was there for day one.
Yeah, I mean, you got to understand, Laura, when the extent of the invasion was realized by the Ukrainians, you had the situation where the country was being attacked from 5 different sides by arguably world's second largest army. Now we know what years of corruption has done to the Russian army, and how sort of strong it is, but nevertheless, it's a massive army that has attacked from Belarus, from Russian side, from the southern flanks, and Ukrainians just started mass mobilization. So you had a case where hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians would be showing up, including women, and there would be not enough, not only weapons, but protective gear. So you basically had all of a sudden hundreds of thousands of volunteers ready to stand up and protect the country, but they were completely unprotected. And the priority was sort of a signal that if you have this full stage invasion where the major Ukrainian army is bogged down actually in the east with the Donetsk and Lugansk region, and you have this major onslaught coming from the north, from the east, and from the south, you need to have these people have protective gear, because if you don't, first, they're not going to be protecting the civilians. And you've seen cases of innocent civilians being completely shot out by the Russian soldiers. And second, you're just going to have exacerbation of the humanitarian crisis, because you will need the medications to treat these people, and the healthcare system is not equipped to be all of a sudden treating so many wounded and incapacitated people. So we had to scramble. We had to scramble right away to start getting the vests, to start getting the helmets. These were the priorities, and 80% of the resources were allocated towards that, and then channeling them towards Sumy, towards Kharkov, toward the Chernihiv. And frankly speaking, the reason Kiev has stood and actually thwarted the invasion and now kind of are counterattacking and throwing out because of heroic defense of the Kharkov and Sumy of Chernihiv, because if the Russian army came through there from the eastern flanks, they would have been already in Kiev, and that army was held in the eastern part, and a lot of defensive weapons gear was there. In terms of getting, obviously, the West had this wake up call, and they realized, okay, well, you know what? Guess what? If Ukraine falls, we are next, and we're next means that in a very high probability NATO fifth article, and you're looking at sort of a World War III actually in that regard. So they scrambled, to their credit, and they started providing lots of military gear. Lots of Stingers, lots of javelins, lots of NLAWs. So a lot of military equipment has been provided by governments directly, and obviously they have made a big difference. They have made a big difference. It's great to have a courage. It's important, but having modern equipment and modern military equipment does help. And Ukrainians have shown their courage in terms of going out and thwarting the attacks. And we played a small role in terms of making sure that when the army attacks and when the bombs fall, at least they have a protective gear so they don't get injured, and they don't put additional strain on the healthcare system. Listen, in addition, Comeback Alive has been doing a lot of evacuation missions to be taking out women and children from places as far away as Mariupol, for example, that you're seeing, assisting the refugees. That over 2.5 million refugees now have gone to outside Ukraine, predominantly towards Poland and other places in Western Europe and Georgia as well. So that has been a primary sort of effort that we've been funding.
And so, Ilya, you mentioned how some of your friends are fighting in the front lines. During all this, as we discussed, there is this vibrant crypto community in the Ukraine. So where did the crypto community go? Are some of those people fighting, or did they go to other countries, or what has happened to that community?
Yeah, I would say there's a combination of. I would say there is a subset of people who either had a military training before or had some kind of training who have decided to stay back and fight. Like, it doesn't actually make sense to fight if you don't know, because there's been a lot of kind of training prior. There's indeed like hundreds of thousands of volunteers. And so those people kind of are, like literally some of them in Kharkiv right now that I know that we've been helping with protective gear, with getting them mobility, for example, because their cars keep getting breaking down. It's like the weather's really bad, right? They're also under attack all the time. The other set of people have been kind of helping. So there's a lot of volunteers on the ground who are helping, like driving food, water. I mean, things are getting bombed, like cars are getting shot at. So there's people actually who are driving around delivering food and water and kind of other supplies to people. I can actually send over some pictures of people who we've been funding. There is a set of people who've been helping out to evacuate others, right? Especially when we're talking about women, children, kind of grandparents, like including mine, for example, to get them out of this and kind of move them toward Western Ukraine and over the border for women and children. And there's a set of people who are not fighters, who are in Western Ukraine now, who are kind of, one of the other things we need to continue doing is actually working, because we will need to restore the Ukraine, which means we need to continue making economy work. And so there's a lot of people who are continue working as kind of much as it's possible, including engineers and like folks we working with who are continue to contribute, even though sometimes they need to go to bomb shelters when there's a siren. And so I think the people who have left, like, they're kind of starting to aggregate in different hubs. For us, we decided Portugal will be one of those hubs. We're setting up kind of infrastructure here for our teams, for near community more broadly, and also kind of trying to help out, like working with local city hall here and some of the other kind of district level folks to see how we can help We actually launched Away from Ukraine as a portal for all the information that people need to, like when they are away from Ukraine, immigration, healthcare, and kind of starting to collect volunteer information as well, because a lot of people around whole Europe are willing to help, but they don't know how, and they don't know how to get matched with people who need help, right? Like we have people offering, translation services. We have people who drivers, like actually, like there are some volunteers in Romania who helped to drive my family over the border outside, right? And so like people like that who are right now driving food and other supplies through Romanian border into Ukraine that gets distributed back to volunteers that drive it to Kharkiv. So like all those people, right, they're willing to help, and so like coordinating that, making sure there's a clear kind of place where people can find information, and then kind of building a little bit of tech around that, like question answering bots and stuff like this to kind of help coordinate that.
In terms of this issue of people needing help and then, trying to coordinate that help, one of my personal friends tweeted about how her grandmother and father were trapped there. And I can't remember. I think it was a while before I myself saw the tweet, like maybe like hours after she'd posted it. And by the time I saw it and retweeted it, it already had like 90,000 likes and another, tens of thousands of retweets. So definitely. And then later she tweeted that, they were rescued and stuff. But, definitely people were doing all they could. I mean, from our homes on our phones and on Twitter. But, still it actually, her cry for help from San Francisco finally actually did result in her grandmother and father being rescued. So yeah, I mean it's really fascinating how this is all happening. But in a similar vein, I did want to talk a little bit about how the Ukrainian government has been making these appeals and has been using crypto as a tool. And I don't know how much insight you have there, but I was just curious, like how it is that the Ukrainian government was so kind of savvy about crypto. And if you have any intel on how they had these ideas to just tweet out their various crypto addresses and stuff like that, I think it's very fascinating because I personally don't think that if the US were in the same situation that we would see high level administration officials tweeting out a Bitcoin or Ether address for the US. So, I was just interested kind of like how they became so savvy.
Well, so it's specifically there's a Ministry of Digital Transformation who has been driving all of these efforts, and so all credit to them. They actually been proponents of crypto for a long time, and actually Ukraine has passed the crypto clarification laws a few weeks before this thing started, which we all were super happy about and wanted to celebrate. Hope at the blockchain UA, and so yeah, in general, yeah, I mean, the digital transformation ministry is kind of extremely savvy in everything digital in general. They have built a kind of an amazing platform called Dia that functions inside Ukraine, which was kind of a single platform for all the services that you would usually engage with the government. Everything from taxation, creation of company, medical, like all of those things were in one place, and it worked with your banking account as well. So it kind of created a whole ecosystem. And yeah, I mean, they are very savvy in crypto. Actually, we were in the same co-working space as the DIA development team, which is led by kind of like directly by the digital transformation group. And so kind of in general, they know very well kind of how all these things work, and they started creating accounts pretty rapidly to collect this. They also are working with a lot of entrepreneurs and kind of are connected with the whole ecosystem. I don't know like how much of this is public, but yeah, like they are working with tons of entrepreneurs in crypto, kind of both to get help as well as to ask for connections and sounds technical help as well. And they have started the IT Army kind of initiative as well to kind of galvanize the technical talent that Ukraine has to kind of help with a lot of the problems. Both kind of on defensive front, like there have been a cyber attacks from Russia's side, as well as limiting kind of the spread of information that Russia has been having.
I mean, if you look, I think it has been profound what Ukrainian government and the leadership has done in terms of utilizing social media platform for reaching out hearts of minds of not just politicians but of common people all around the world. And not only Ukrainians have been sort of a kicking ass on the military front, but they completely kicked ass and obliterated Russian propaganda machine to a point where the propaganda, even inside Russia, is starting to take its kind of, it seems, are coming off. Obviously it comes in from the leadership of President Zelensky. I've met him on a couple of occasions. This is a very patriotic man that stood up to the challenge, and he has on a very human level reached out and pierced through the feelings of people around the world. And I think the team around him has rallied behind and have used the social media, whether it's enlisting Elon to get the Starlinks, or going out and kind of calling out Samsung or Apple or Google or YouTube in order to do this or that. And obviously when that's those messages kind of come alive, that get caught by media, and then people that know people talk directly to to the decision makers, and say, hey, what's going on, can you do this or can you do that? So we've been calling in, frankly, a lot of favors, and not just favors, it's just asking directly, hey, you want to be on the right side of the history, and this is the situation, and this is the ask. And we had a very high convert rate. So the government itself has been very savvy from the reforms that have been doing up to that, and now with this situation, they have completely, sort of a slam dunk in terms of using social media and channels in terms of getting the message out, rallying out support through common people, and rallying up governments. And frankly speaking, if we didn't have social media and this conflict happened 20 years ago, it would have been a very, very different outcome. It would have been a very, very hard sort of a push and hard struggle, and there would have been much more tragic and many more atrocities committed and such. But now everything is live. Basically, you have tanks coming out, and Ukrainian partisans are FaceTiming the locations in real time, and they're being the satellite images, or the recordings, and all of that is giving you sort of a live situation of things on the ground that's helping tremendously the armed forces. And obviously information war using the tools have been done marvelously, and have given a lot of positive to Ukrainian people.
Yeah, I agree. I've said this repeatedly throughout the episode, but it is just so fascinating to watch, because clearly things would have turned out very differently if it weren't for the various ways that the technology, both of Web 2 and Web 3, is being used here. One thing that I did want to ask about was obviously there was a moment when the Ukrainian government promised an airdrop for people who contributed. Obviously, they ended up, kind of saying that they were decided against going through with that. But what did you make of that move, and then the decision to reverse course? What do you think kind of maybe happened there that initially caused them to make that announcement, but then change their minds?
So I don't know the reasoning behind the kind of making the decision and changing mind, but I would say like the idea was definitely to kind of highlight the people who have contributed, right? And so the kind of the idea of to give out NFTs that would show that you supported through donations to this. I mean, we can speculate on what kind of changing the mind. I think generally right now it's just not the right time. Like they have plenty of more immediate things to do, and so kind of the NFT project. There's a lot of NFT projects right now to support Ukraine that are happening, and kind of their goal is to actually raise more funds to then fund them to help people. And so I think there will be a time, hopefully soon, when this war ends and we're gonna switch to recovery mode, where we should highlight people who have helped and who have done job here, but it's not right now. Right now, it's really kind of how do we stop this? How do we kind of help people who are still in immediate danger, and how we kind of help people who are not in immediate danger but actually are will be running out of food, or right now kind of outside of Ukraine now, kind of in a new environment, and actually have huge PTSD. This is something that I haven't heard anyone talking about, but like even just from the friends who are arriving now in Portugal who have been there, or my family, like they all have PTSD in some form, right? They've been under bombs, they've been under shooting, they've been like forcefully relocated, and like this will be kind of a lot of time to recover. And this is actually something that like I hope we can find, like this war is there's a peace, at least some like ceasefire, we can start recovering and rebuilding, because we can actually rebuild way stronger country from this and help people kind of to really with this rallying around get them in stronger and bigger country out of Ukraine.
Yeah, one thing I will say, obviously, people probably know already, but after the airdrop was announced, then of course there were a bunch of wallets that were farming the airdrop, sending like just tiny donations. So I do wonder if that played a role. Clearly, yeah. It's interesting because, of course, the war has brought out, I think, such a great response from the crypto community. It really highlights kind of all the wonderful things about it. But then, of course, we've also seen the same kind of shady or just opportunistic behaviors that we're all familiar with in crypto as well. So, we've seen both sides.
It's been one of the, I would say, major issues that we actually need Web3 to solve, and kind of understanding reputation of people that you're dealing with. Because especially now, like a lot of it is in Telegram and Signal, which is useful for many reasons, but then we don't actually understand who is the person on the other side, like how, like what's their reputation, who they're connected to, which communities they're part of. And so having that information being kind of private but also available in some summarized zero knowledge form that you can judge based on when you're connecting with people, when you're engaging with someone, to prevent this kind of forms of there's actually scams happening. Like people are trying, like even with Unchained Fund, we are open to for volunteers who are helping on the ground, but we're doing like deep KYC with like proof of location, and we keep actually finding people who are trying to scam this, right? And so actually building out a kind of working KYC, kind of not KYC, but actually reputation system that works beyond just kind of basic identity, but actually like, what are the things that you've done already? What are the things that kind of positive that you bring to the world? Who are the other friends who you're working with, communities that you're participating in? Kind of encompassing that into some form that others can work on and judge on when they're engaging with you is super important. I think like is something that like I'm excited about, again, after we hopefully get into a stable state and start rebuilding, to start engaging in.
Yeah, I actually just did an interview. I have this new like premium offering where people can subscribe and they get additional content. And I just did an interview with a project called Galaxy, and they're actually doing just what you're talking about. So it was a very interesting interview. It sort of made you realize kind of finally how, because it's long been promised that blockchain technology could be applied to identity and reputation. But yeah, this is one project that is kind of working on that. George, did you want to add anything on this airdrop or even the subsequent NFT that they announced they were going to drop?
Yeah, I mean, I've been so kind of focusing on the fundraising efforts and kind of evacuating, friends and relatives from Chernihiv and Kharkiv that, I saw that in the news, but frankly speaking, it's been overshadowed by bombs dropping and maternity wards being blown up, getting help on the ground. But I'm sure once the dust settles, that will be one of the questions. And I think the team should provide the answer. What was the reasoning behind, and see what can be done to make sort of make people whole, so to speak. That would be my advice.
Yeah, my understanding, it was just NFT. There was no, like, it wasn't supposed to be like a token airdrop. It was supposed to be just NFT for people who have contributed to kind of showcase the support.
Oh. Okay. So, but I thought originally it was a token, and then they changed to NFTs. But you were saying that originally it was NFTs?
Yeah, I think that was just kind of again, they're very overworked. That Twitter is, like Twitter for that is something kind of trendy that they're doing. So I think they were trying to kind of, again, as my understanding, to highlight the people who have been contributing and helping. That's really been the goal, not to create some kind of other token economics.
Okay.
At least as far as I understand.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit more about, kind of the what it is that the crypto community can do going forward. I feel like this was obviously in the news in a much bigger way, just even a little while ago, but I feel like there's been less news about it, at least in the crypto world. So, what would you want for people to know or to have them do based off of listening to this episode?
Yeah, I think there are a few things. I mean, obviously, beyond just kind of contributing to various of these efforts, depending on what kind of you align with most, or what kind of you directly want to contribute to. I think there are, looking for volunteers to help out with a lot of this. Like if we're talking, somebody who is in European Union, like people who can help with all these refugees and kind of people who have been displaced. Again, I mentioned Away from Ukraine is a portal we're trying to build to kind of organize this information and options. And then beyond that, I think supporting Ukrainians, like honestly, even in kind of mental, like, friendly way, because like everyone having a hard time, and they need your support, they need your kind of friendship as well.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to thank everybody in a major way who has come in times of need. And I've been overwhelmed, and my heart has been warmed by the help and assistance from many, and in some cases from unexpected places. There have been few surprises on the other side as well that have kind of stayed aloof and stayed, I wouldn't say indifferent, but not as active as I would have expected. But it is what it is, and 95% of people I reached out, and discussions have came out in small way, in big way, in unexpected way, and thanks. It's a great karma for for the world, and in times of this, I think when world comes together to help each other and to give a caring hand is what it matters. And crypto community to a large extent, I mean, all this infighting between various protocols sometimes and Twitter wars and stuff. I came to witness that when there was a human tragedy and human need, that people put aside, all this and united together to do. And I want to thank everybody. Thank you, yeah, for all the work you're doing. And he actually has a great group on Telegram, and so many participants. And every day there is, soup kitchen or evacuating people, and with pictures. And it's a very vibrant community. It's wonderful seeing people from all over the world coming in. And here in Georgia, we're also putting together trucks of humanitarian stuff and sending out. And we have thousands and thousands of Ukrainians that are coming, that are being lodged free of charge and staying, and sort of cared for. And I just want to thank everyone who has come in, and you've done a great thing, and something to be proud of. So thank you.
All right. So, for people who want to get involved, what are all the handles and websites and groups that they should know about?
Yeah, I mean, Unchained.fund is kind of this humanitarian fund. I mean, Come Back Alive is kind of what George's been working with. You can also check out the Digital Ministry of Digital Transformation, their website. And then Away from Ukraine is for the kind of for helping people who have been who are outside of Ukraine now, and who need help because they've been kind of forcefully removed. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I think exactly what Ilya said. I also pay now to many in United States that Ashton's and Mila's Go Fund campaign. I think it's a great effort, and they're nearing their sort of a target. So that's it's a great way to get engaged. And in a couple of weeks' times, we'll announce the Heroes of Ukraine Children's Fund, and I'll be more than happy to then promote and get crypto community engaged, continue sort of helping and doing good.
Great. Well, thank you both so much for coming on Unchained.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Laura.
Thanks so much for joining us today. To learn more about George, Illia, and their efforts in Ukraine, check out the show notes for this episode. Unchained is produced by me, Laura Shin, with help from Anthony Yoon, Daniel Ness, Mark Murdoch, Shashank, and CLK Transcription. Thanks for listening.